I'm happy to see that so many persons are online, and my sincere desire is to say something that will touch your head and your heart. Our topic is reinventing happiness, the bliss of anxiety. Everyone knows what anxiety is like and who wants it. But the yoga wisdom can teach us how to use anxiety in a most beneficial way. But first, let's talk about our current circumstances. Human trafficking and human slaughter of exotic animal species, what to speak of so-called ordinary animal species, have brought upon the world zoonotic diseases, viruses that have jumped from animals to human beings. You could say that we're experiencing the revenge of the animals. We might consider that we're just innocently pursuing our happiness. But we want to take a look tonight at how our version of happiness is causing massive destruction. So in this way, because of that pursuit of so-called happiness, we're not so innocent. Now, I know, based on talks given all over the world, that the last place you would look for pointing the finger, for fixing the blame, the last place we would look is our quest for happiness. Like, what's wrong with wanting to be happy in our own way? The world needs more of that. The ancient Bhakti Yoga wisdom, especially what you'll find in the prime Bhakti Yoga text, Bhagavad Gita, spoken by Krishna, will explain to us that there's a fundamental error in our conception of what is the self and what will fulfill the self. So if we can get to the root of this problem, we can actually begin to benefit ourselves and benefit the world. If we can get to the root of the happiness problem, rather than pointing the finger at politicians and whoever the target of our choice is, the capitalists, the laborers, the politicians, the scientists, whatever we want, wherever we look to point the finger. Why not begin pointing the finger at ourselves? In that our version of happiness and success is causing a major disruption to human life and to nature as a whole. When you think about it, what is the major geophysical impact on the earth right now? Human beings have assumed the proportion of a geophysical force. So when you looked at history in the past, you would see center stage in the spotlight, human affairs, revolutions, technological achievements. Those would be prime time. But now, what has happened? Nature has upstaged everything and grabbed the spotlight back and shoved us human creatures in the background, backstage, off stage. Nature is showing us that we're meant to be cooperative participants in nature, not exploiters and dominators of nature. So our version of happiness has become so exploitative of nature and exploitative of one another. Sometimes it's said that our society is extraordinarily extractive. Our whole human mission on this planet seems to be summarized as extractive. Digging out from the ground, removing from the oceans. Wherever we can extract something, we do it. And this mentality, this extractive mentality, refers not simply to oil or gas or minerals. It also refers to the way we approach relationships. Just consider, in a consumer society where everything is subject to be consumed, relationships are also a consumer item. And you unconsciously are trained to extract from the other person. Of course, you want to give. But the giving and taking is so extractive. And you know what happens when the extraction doesn't seem profitable anymore in terms of relationship net worth. You know what to do then. It's time to move on. So we could consider this mentality to be like a predator, but I prefer to use environmental terms, ecological terms, extractive. What can I extract from you to be happy? And yes, I'll allow you to extract from me to be happy, and we'll analyze the balance sheet periodically. So this extractive mentality affects not only the earth, but also the earth's inhabitants, and what to speak of other creatures. Some of you who've heard me speak before may remember how with proper Bhakti Yoga wisdom, we want to strive for sustainable happiness, which is quite different from extractive happiness, exploitative happiness. Sustainable happiness means endeavors to be happy that don't exploit other human beings, don't exploit other species, don't exploit nature, and don't exploit future generations. So many persons throughout the world, I've noted, under 30 years of age, they are either very vocally or silently angry because their predecessors, their parents and grandparents, have screwed up nature royally and left such an inheritance of devastation. So the present younger generation should consider, we've got to find a kind of happiness that doesn't involve intergenerational tyranny, destroying the future of the generations to come. You don't want to continue acting with the mentality of your seniors that, hey, we're just doing what we can in the world. We're getting what we can from the world. If there's some problems, hey, the coming generation will sort it all out. We had problems to sort out in our time. We had World War I, World War II. So certainly when it comes to climate change and social decay and economic problems, certainly the younger generation, they can handle it all. That's what it means to have life, to be alive. I would say you shouldn't accept this. The circumstances of today are a great call for us to collaborate in terms of reimagining the human project. So rather than our being depressed and frustrated, full of anxiety, what's going to become of the situation? Will we ever return to pre-pandemic prosperity? When will normal life begin again? Instead of lamenting like that, as we see the realities unfolding, economic havoc, political dissension, and meanwhile, the environmental ruination continues, and all in the shadow of the world's shameful supply of 16,000 nuclear weapons. An intelligent person is thinking, we've got to do something about this mess. But what to do? And who would ever think to start with happiness as the culprit? So let's think about that for a few moments. What the Bhakti Yoga knowledge, the knowledge of the love supreme, what it calls for is the development of happiness champions, sustainable happiness champions. Persons who will show themselves, first of all, and show the world a sustainable way to be happy. And that means a non-material way. Because when we look at the ecological footprint of the nations in the world that externally seem to be so expert at happiness, we see that their endeavors for happiness are causing major damage, indeed threatening the whole planet. Again, all in the name of happiness. The extractiveness that we spoke about. Sometimes it's said that our present version of human beings is best described as flesh-covered devices for burning fossil fuels. This is the major contribution of our civilization. So where is happiness? We must look at the interrelatedness of everything in the universe, but the Bhakti Yoga knowledge tells us, let's also look beyond the universe. Now, where do you get that kind of information from? Well, first, we must begin to look beyond our own physiology and our own psychology. We need to look beyond our own body and mind. And once we start to consider our non-material existence, we start to look at the universe and beyond the universe in a different way. We start to understand that not everything is matter. It's not that hydrogen suddenly became sentient, full of consciousness. No, it could be that consciousness is fundamental and primary in the universe, and it's nothing that generates from matter, and that we in our true self have not generated from matter. So therefore, why should we pursue material happiness when we're not material? In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna gives a simple example, but the simple example deserves centuries of thought. We look at the different photos on this Zoom conference and we see everyone's wearing different clothes. No one's wearing what I'm wearing. I'm not wearing what you're wearing. We change these clothes, Krishna explains, just like we change bodies. So as long as our endeavors for happiness are bound up with what changes all the time, physically, psychologically, we're going to be frustrated, angry, disappointed, and we're going to take it out on others. Rather than recognizing the problem begins with us. So it's so easy to point the finger at others. And certainly there are persons in this world who are causing more than their fair share of havoc. At the same time, what do we know that is so different? What is it about us that's so different? How can we truly consider ourselves innocent? What are we doing that's special and unique? So therefore, again, the quest for happiness, our quest for happiness, we should put under a microscope and look at it. What's our happiness footprint? You see, we're not simply talking about tragedies that are affecting secondary and tertiary aspects of the planet. We're talking about crises that are devastating the primary integrity and comprehensiveness of Earth. So in this way, the virus is just an external indicator that, hey, you guys, your species is way off track. Now, we could have known that just from the rising anxiety, aside from the pandemic, just the rise of psychological anxiety. And the Bhakti Yoga knowledge teaches us that anxiety is nature's way of letting us know we're driving up the wrong road. We've tried to get on the motorway on the wrong ramp. Anxiety is actually a gift from nature to let us know that we're barking up the wrong tree. We need to totally turn the ship around. So the Bhakti Yogi knows how to use even crisis for the best possible gain. The best possible gain. Sometimes I speak of the saying that a crisis is a terrible thing to waste. And you might say, well, who wants a crisis? Well, whether we want them or not, they come. And who would ever think that Bhakti Yoga knowledge teaches you how to handle a crisis and profit from it? You use the crisis to go deeper, to reassess your life goals, to reassess what is your project amidst the human project. What are you really up to and why? Sometimes people like to wonder about what is good. How do you live a good life? Or how do you be good? Sometimes we think like that, right? How to be good. Or more popular is the thought, how to feel good. But actually, we should be asking the question, what is life good for? What is life itself good for? Before we worry about how to have a good life, how to be good, and how to feel good, what's this thing known as life good for in of itself? In other words, as I like to point out, why should we simply breathe, bleed, and breed? What's the reason? Ask yourself that question. Yes. Why am I breathing, bleeding, and potentially breeding? If not now, in the future. What's the point? What is life good for? In order to have a genuine pursuit of happiness, we need to look at the fundamentals of existence. And this is what Bhagavad Gita is so expert at giving. It's highlighting the fundamental components of existence. Your body, your mind, your false ego, your intelligence, and your non-material self. So let's go a little deeper here into a discussion of these components and how our particular blend of these components is destroying the planet, sorry to say. The yoga text will explain to us that we are non-material, but we're identifying, more precisely, misidentifying with the body and mind as the self. So our non-material self has no problems because it's non-material. But our non-material self, so to speak, is asleep. And the mind, in combination with the false ego, has taken over our life. In other words, you could think of it in this way. The non-material self has given power of attorney to the material mind and body. And therefore, we've unnecessarily embraced all kinds of complexities and problems just from the apparently innocent activity of pursuing a material agenda, trying to feel good physically, trying to relieve our anxieties psychologically. How to get to the root of the problem rather than make a cosmetic solution. So let's look at our life and see how we've avoided getting to the root, and we've dabbled in various superficial cosmetic remedies. And these days, you can't blame someone for just trying to have a little peace this way, that way, the other way, whether through intoxication or sensuality or exploitative relationships or mass weapons of distraction known as entertainment. You got to do something, right? I know, I understand, believe me. You don't have to tell me, hey, Swami, give us a break. I understand, it's everyone wants happiness. Why? The Bhakti Yoga knowledge explains that we are non-material particles in relationship to the Supreme Consciousness. The Supreme Consciousness is unlimitedly attractive, infinitely attractive. That's why Bhagavad Gita presents Krishna, infinitely attractive. Because the ultimate source, the complete whole, is unlimitedly happy. We, as particles of that complete whole, want to be happy too. In other words, you can't pull out of your core being the desire to be happy. You can't extinguish it, no matter how hard you may try. Even if you become a masochist, you're still trying to be happy. I was in Copenhagen, Denmark once. I've lived so many places in the world. Actually, I've lived on every habitable continent of the world. So there I was at our Bhakti Yoga center in Copenhagen, Denmark. We had just moved into the neighborhood, and we had rented a big house there. So there was a knock on the door. And I opened the door, and there was a middle-aged couple looking quite conventional, mainstream. And they presented themselves. Hello, we hear that you're new in the neighborhood. We're from your local masochist society. We just want you to know that we're here for you. I said, I don't know if this is my cup of herb tea. But what amazed me was that they want to be happy, even if it seems to come in a way that's very strange to us. Everyone wants to be happy, and the Bhakti Yogi knows how to observe the quest for happiness in all of nature. The plants, the birds, the bees, the trees, the animals, in their very primitive way, with their very slightly developed consciousness, want to be happy. In the human being, the quest for happiness, or the capacity for pursuing happiness, is fully developed. Therefore, human beings become neurotic. They don't know what to do with this drive for happiness. Whereas plants and fish and animals and birds, they don't become neurotic. Of course, pet owners who are neurotic can affect their pets, and the pets seem to be neurotic. So now, I know in New York City, the place of my birth, there are specialists in pet psychology who work at taking your pet and removing the anxieties from the pets that their human owners have invested into their pets. But generally speaking, human beings have cornered the market, have monopolized the phenomenon of anxiety and becoming neurotic. We actually do deserve a lot of blame. We human beings do deserve a lot of blame, but we just want to be happy. And the Bhakti Yoga wisdom explains that this drive to be happy, you can't get rid of it. It's part of your core being, your non-material self, because we are part of the Supreme Self. And the Supreme Self is unlimitedly full of happiness. Those of you who are learning more about that ultimate source, about Krishna, know that Krishna's happiness is ever expanding, because that's the nature of the spiritual energy. It's always expanding. Now, conventionally, materially, we have no idea of what happiness could be like that's constantly expanding. We're just battling to hold on to little scraps of happiness that we get here and there. But yes, life on the spiritual plane is always increasing in knowledge, increasing in happiness. And this goes on without interruption by time. Without these advantages, who would want to take to the yogic life, the life of genuine meditation? There has to be some special advantage. Otherwise, why not live life in such a way that destroys the earth, and when you're gone, you're gone? But many of you know there's something known as karma. What goes around comes around. In fact, our very bodies and minds are formed by karma. Therefore, you see, there are differing strengths and characteristics of bodies and minds. Some bodies are beautiful, some are healthy, some are more intelligent, some are stronger, and permutations of all the above. Someone may be very beautiful, but their health is bad. Someone may be very smart, but they're physically unattractive. All this is due to karma. Every action has a reaction. Now, those of you who have studied Bhagavad Gita may remember that there Krishna describes that karma specifically refers to actions that lead to the development of a material body. So when we look in the mirror, we're looking at a bag of karma. That's what we're seeing in the mirror. And with that bag of karma, we're generating more karma because we're acting. And we're acting for happiness. And of course, many of you are acting for the happiness of others. But with a material concept of life, our happiness endeavors are so blighted. They're so constricted. They don't get the job done. And then we become angry. You know how it is. You start blaming your partner. You start blaming your ex-friends, blame society. Anger is the result of frustrated material desires. So how to make peace with ourselves? Then we can make peace with nature, peace with the other species, peace with the planet. We all need to collaborate on this, because human beings, as you know, have generated such a crisis. So let's not waste the crisis. Let's reimagine the whole human project. That's exciting, isn't it? There's no need for us to become depressed and overwhelmed with negativity. let's use the crisis to look at our situation individually and collectively and rethink it. Let's work together to construct a human species that's marching in the right direction finally. If we all put our heads and hearts together to do that, based on genuine wisdom, we can make a difference. Now you might say, well, what is genuine wisdom? Genuine wisdom begins with asking the question, am I just physiology and psychology, or am I something beyond that? And why do I want to be happy? What is real happiness? If I'm not the body and mind, if I'm more than the body and mind, then how can I ever be satisfied materially? These are the questions that we should be wrestling with. And in answering these questions, we'll be led to lifestyle transformation. There has to be a difference in the way we live, and then others will see, yes, you have a different lifestyle. And they should be able to see in us the change that we want for the world. So we have a lot to do. We have a lot of progress to make, real progress. Not simply mythical progress. Not simply imagining industrial victories, corporate victories, while we destroy nature and destroy our own psyche. There's a way we can use our happiness endeavors, motivated by a crisis, pushed by anxiety. We can use all that to go to a higher level. I like to quote Albert Einstein, who said that a problem is never solved on the same level that it originated. So when you read Bhagavad Gita, when you start to apply a lifestyle of genuine meditation, when you start thinking of that ultimate relationships, the love supreme, you see, once we start considering relations, the interrelatedness of nature, then we want to also consider relations with the ultimate source. So the genuine yoga knowledge, the Bhakti Yoga knowledge especially, considers the whole package of interrelatedness on the physical level, the psychological level, and the non-material level, all as aspects or energies emanating from the ultimate source. And that ultimate source, as we discussed, is unlimitedly attractive. Therefore, the need for Krishna. And the need for us as parts, tiny parts of Krishna. And the need for furthering the relationship between the two. So these are some thoughts on how we can use anxiety to propel ourselves to a higher level. In that way, anxiety becomes our friend. It's telling us things. Hey, what are you doing with your valuable human form of life, with its developed consciousness? What are you doing as an individual? What are you doing as a part of collective society? So now's the time for us to go back to the drawing board reanalyze, reimagine, rethink the whole human project. Economics, politics, the ecology, the sociology, the psychology, and most importantly, what role does our non-material reality play in our pursuits and goals, our everyday life? So these are some issues that you'll find are inescapable. And fortunately, nature these days is not letting us escape. Nature is sticking these issues right under our nose, and we should face them squarely together, putting our heads and hearts together. We are all non-material particles of consciousness, part of the supreme consciousness. No matter what kind of body we have, no matter what species, you'll find in the 14th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, all species of life, no matter what they look like, they're all related as parts of the Supreme. This is the way forward. We're wearing different clothes. We're wearing different bodies. But if we can find a deeper unifying factor beyond the physical differences, the psychological differences, beyond even the species differences, and we start to see existence as a complete package, united package, even beyond planetary wholesomeness, then we're really onto something. And that's what the bhakti wisdom is all about. So I thank you all for your kind attention.
Thank you.
What comes next, Bhakti?
Thank you so much, Devamrita Swami. Before we move on to questions from any one of you, I want to share an exciting news, something we've been working on behind the scenes to help us apply this knowledge in our day-to-day life. So I will share my screen. We are launching tonight online Spiritual Fitness Club. It is for anyone who wants to see positive changes in their lives towards becoming fit physically, mentally and spiritually. So you'll get access to personal coach to help you reach your personal development goals. And you'll get access to the online fitness tracker where you can track your progress, like daily exercising for your body, reading for your mind, and meditating for your soul. Also, you'll be part of the book club, and we read a book together and have meetings to discuss about it. So the Spiritual Fitness Club is a community where you will find support, inspiration, and where we share success together. So it's a monthly subscription, and when you first register, you'll get Devamrita Swami's book, as well as a mantra meditation kit. So we've just opened up the subscriptions tonight, so you can go to mantralaunchevents.com.au/Spiritual Fitness Club. So it's there in the chat now. And now I will ask if anyone has any question. You can unmute yourself or write something in the chat.
I see a question in chat. Nice question. What English translation of the Bhagavad Gita do you recommend? I wholeheartedly recommend Bhagavad Gita as it is. It's the most prevalent translation in the world, but most importantly, it is as it is, just as the title of it says, Bhagavad Gita as it is. That's the one I use, and Bhakti Yoga practitioners throughout the world relish it because of its clarity. The commentary magnifies the verses rather than obscures the verses. So I recommend Bhagavad Gita as it is, and Bhakti can help you acquire that. Our host, she can help you. Thank you for that question. I see Angela raising her hand.
Hi. My question is, how can we be encouraging social regeneration at this time?
Yes, a decent human being is concerned about the suffering of others. We have to take care of the body, we have to take care of the mind, and we have to take care of our non-material self. Of those three, our non-material self is most important, but we also have to take care of our equipment. And we're concerned about others and their health and how they're being cared for. So the Bhakti Yoga practice is a holistic practice in that it takes into account all these factors of our existence, of everyone's existence, while getting to the root of the problem. The root of the problem is we're striving for material satisfaction, but we're not material. Meanwhile, we do have to take care of these material bodies and minds. And there are persons who are not getting what they need to take care of their external aspects. So this requires a cool head, what I'm saying. You don't neglect the material aspects of your existence, but you understand that they are secondary and tertiary. You don't want to ignore your primal needs, your prime needs. Thank you, Angela. Anyone else? Just sing out, because I may not be able to see you're moving your hand and signaling. Maybe Bhakti sees it, but I don't. Okay, I see something coming in the chat from Nicole. I love the idea of being sustainable happiness champion. Also, that to resonate with the solution, I need to let go of resonating with the solution. However, I keep getting distracted with the suffering of the planet. Any ideas? Well, you shouldn't be distracted thinking of the suffering of the planet. Any soft-hearted person is concerned about the state of the planet in terms of human welfare and all species. Human beings have become, as you know, so expert at destruction with their extractive obsession. And so human beings are causing suffering to themselves and so many other species of life, and they're smashing the integrity of the planet, the cohesiveness of nature. So nature, as I said earlier, has said, enough of you guys. I am taking over center stage. Your political and economic and technological arrangements are no longer prime time. Nature is saying, I am reasserting myself. And you are getting droughts and heat waves and coral reefs dying and bushfires and all kinds of severe storms. This is nature's way of reasserting who is actually, or what is actually, the primary reality. So we have to pay attention to that. And in this way, become motivated to get to the core of the problem. Human beings, why are we humans and what are we supposed to be doing? Therefore, I say it's time to reimagine the entire human project. Another question? How can we face our mental illness as anxiety if we are aware of most of what you're talking about, but it's still being a big issue? Yes, mental anxiety is so omnipresent these days. It is a big issue. And you're right, even we may have an inkling that it can be a motivating factor for us to go to a higher level. It's still very painful to have. The mantra meditation is so important. It gets to the root of our anxiety. Some of you may know that sonic therapy is taught at so many universities in the world these days. I know so many people who are studying for their degree in sonic therapy because sound is recognized for having healing powers. But the Maha Mantra is different. It's a sonic therapy in a class of its own because it's cutting straight through to the non-material self. So I recommend, whether you're full of anxiety or don't have so much anxiety, you apply the Maha Mantra, the Krishna mantra, and you will see the difference because it's getting to the root of the problem, our misidentifying the body and mind as the self. Nice questions. Thank you.
Any last question?
I see from Brendan, being sustainably happy, can this partly be seen by making most of any and all circumstances to dive deeper into identifying with our non-material self? Saying this, any thoughts on how to apply such? Good one, Brendan. Yes, how to do it. Therefore, you heard me refer to lifestyle transformation, which requires lifestyle management. We've got to overhaul the way we live, and that means renovating our physical and psychological existences so that they are supportive of our non-material endeavors, our non-material quests. That takes knowledge and guidance and a supportive community. Without support, you'll feel isolated and alone as you try to march to a different drummer. But with a support community for your non-material endeavors, you'll be strengthened and, birds of a feather flock together. All right.